Welcome back to the Boardman Black and Gold podcast, and for the first time in months, we are together.
We're in person.
We are in person.
This is so exciting. So glad we're able to finally do it in person, and I'm excited to talk about the Steelers, not on the phone this time.
Yes, it's nice to be able to do it face-to-face and not have to wait for the delay of like, hey, this is my thought, what do you think?
Exactly.
So we're excited. We're back in person for the first time in a while. And another thing for the first time in a while, the Steelers are 2-0.
Yeah, since 2020. We had that 11-0 streak. When I saw that stat, I was actually surprised that we hadn't gone 2-0 since then. So that's like 3 years. I mean, it makes sense, but it's just kind of crazy to think about.
It is pretty crazy. At the same time, I think we kind of thought about this. I mean, it was a cupcake first two games.
Oh, yeah, for sure. But hey, I mean, it's not a better time right now to be 2-0. The Ravens and the Bengals 0-2, and the Browns, they have a really easy early schedule too, and they're 1-1. But I'm still just not worried about them.
They're 1-1, but they're like a sucky 1-1. They honestly should have lost the Jags game.
I did see some of that, and the Jags are starting to come back, but Deshaun Watson's just not good, so he's not going to do it. If they somehow make the playoffs, he won't do anything. So I'm just not worried about when we play them.
Yeah, they looked horrendous against the Jags, and the only reason, like, they won in spite of themselves. Yeah. So it wasn't anything that they did to win. It was just they happened to win at the end of the game. So I don't give any credit to the Browns whatsoever. And like you said, the Ravens and the Bengals are 0-2, and as far as we are concerned, just keep pushing them down and don't let them back in, because I mean they're good teams allegedly, and they're gonna come back eventually.
Well, and that's the thing is with these teams, specifically the Ravens, the Bengals. I think I saw a stat that said they're 2-10 since 2019 in weeks 1 and 2.
Yeah.
So this is known for them. This happens all the time. They played. I forget. They played one good team for sure. The Patriots. I don't know. And the Ravens, though, I think, man, it's very concerning of, are they even a good team this year? Because, sure, they made it very close games, both games, but, I mean, have they looked good? I know Lamar hasn't looked good, and, I mean, I've never liked Lamar, and so I'm even wow, are the Ravens even a good team this year? Are they, a solid team this year? The same thing could be asked about us. And most teams in the league this year is are they even good? There's so much parity this year.
Yeah, and that really kind of leads us into this week, because I don't think really anybody expected the Chargers to be good, and the question really remains, are they actually a good team? They're 2-0. They beat the Raiders, who just beat the Ravens.
Right.
So again, talking about parity, so what does that work in the circle of things? And then they just blew out the Panthers, who are
the worst team in the league.
Right, are on pace to be one of the worst teams ever, unfortunately.
Yeah.
0-17?
Yeah,
the first one ever.
Yeah.
It's certainly a possibility. I'm a Steelers fan first and foremost, but living in North Carolina for several years, the Panthers are kind of my second team, and I like rooting for the Panthers. I've been to several Panthers games. And it's definitely sad to see how just abysmal they are. Yeah. They can't do anything right. Nothing they put on the field is done right. The offense is abysmal, the defense is Swiss cheese, the coaching is awful, and even their owner David Tepper is the worst owner in the National Football League. So it's definitely sad what's going on in Carolina.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it for sure is. And, beating them, even blowing them out, I don't think is a huge, oh my gosh, they're great because of how bad they are. But I will say that the Chargers do scare me. I think for a couple of reasons. One, Jim Harbaugh, he's a great coach in college and NFL. I'm pretty sure, because, he coached the Niners and had a couple years of success with them. And I think in his first year, he went to the NFC Championship. So he doesn't need a gap year. Neither did John Harbaugh when he joined the Ravens. They went to the AFC Championship. So they don't need gap years. He gets their teams ready to go. And, people have been saying all offseason, that it's like, oh, well, yeah, they have Justin Herbert, but, like, he has no weapons. And it's like, one, Quentin Johnston's made plays.
Yeah.
So that's a big thing. And two, it doesn't really matter when you got a guy who can put it on your number every single time. Like, if it's right in the basket every time, do you need a guy who can make a one-handed catch? Not really. And so I think their offense is scary, and then I think their defense is also sneaky, kind of like how the Broncos' defense is sneaky, where, you know, they got a lot of old guys, but they're vets, and they can, you know, they looked good, I think, in both weeks.
Well, let's go back and let's talk about the Broncos week before we get too far into into the Chargers.
We jumped way ahead there.
We did. We're getting excited for week 3, even though we're still, you know, we still have a lot to talk about with week 2.
We do.
All right, so hey, the almighty formula. The almighty formula worked for the second week in a row. David, the formula. The formula.
The formula against a team that'll probably have 5 wins this year. And I think that, oh, man, I don't know. I do know how. It's because I've been saying this all week. Our defense is arguably, it is without a doubt a top 3 defense. It is arguably the best defense in the league. I think that you'd be hard-pressed to find another defense that has played this good both weeks, holding one team to 10 and another team to 6. Which both of them scored over 20 points the week prior. Well, the Falcons scored 20 points this week, and Denver scored 20 points the week before against Seattle, whose defense isn't a slouch.
It's fine.
Yeah, and so I think that we, without a doubt, when it's healthy and when it's like this, we may have the best defense in the league, and so being able to put that on showcase was really good. But again, our offense, I mean, it started out hot. I will say,
yeah,
offense looked good to start, and then, I mean, I don't know what you have to say, but specifically in the second half, it just died.
Okay, well, let's start in the first half. Justin Fields looked really, really good.
He did. Grace, I mean, oh my goodness, the throw to Pat Freiermuth was just a great, like, perfect pass.
Yeah,
he made some good runs. Some other good, like, you know, play throws. The touchdown pass was solid. I love that they used Darnell Washington.
I know. Like, how many people were betting on Darnell Washington being the first touchdown of the season?
Right. Yeah.
And like you said, that throw was perfect. It was to the perimeter, and it was right in his breadbasket. You know, a guy that isn't necessarily known for his pass catching ability. I mean, he didn't have to do anything there. Like you said with Justin Herbert. You know, all you have to do, if he can put it on the numbers, like, that's all that matters. You don't need a prolific catcher to be able to make that type of catch. And that was one of those types of throws. So, I mean, Fields has made some really, really nice throws. And he made some throws that didn't count.
He did.
And that's maybe one of the biggest takeaways from this Broncos week was the penalties were just awful. Just, they can't take penalties like that on offense. Defense, it's okay. It's a bend don't break defense. We've said that for the last year or so. But on offense, you can't take penalties. Broderick Jones on that one drive.
The 3 straight plays?
Yes, 3 straight plays, one of which was a 50-yard bomb to George Pickens that was one of the most beautiful throws I've seen from a Steelers quarterback probably since Big Ben.
Yeah.
Like this, I mean, that is inexcusable.
Oh.
And the other thing, they keep playing Jones on the right side. They keep doing this tandem on the offensive line. They keep switching him in and out. Broderick Jones is still on the right side. They have not played him on the left where he is normally supposed to play. That's where he was drafted as, on the left side of the line. They keep playing on the right side. They have this platoon on the right side. And, again, 3 straight penalties. What do you make of it?
I mean, yeah, it was hard to watch. It was horrible. And there's just been so many penalties. I looked this up. I have a little bit of statistics. This is actually pretty interesting. It's only been 2 weeks, but I looked up just the most penalties for teams. We're second in penalties. First, and this team blows everybody away by 5+ penalties, is Cleveland. So talking about how they play horrendous.
Yeah.
That's true. And interestingly enough, third is Baltimore. So out of all the whole league, 3 teams in our division are top 3. And so I just was looking at that, and one of the things that was really noticeable was the pre-snap penalties. We had 14 total penalties in the first 2 games. 9 were pre-snap. And
Wow.
that's horrible. Like, the pre-snap penalties are the worst penalties. And so to have the majority of those be that, and, you know, I almost feel bad. I know I hate on him a ton, but, like, I'm sorry. That's the head coach. Like, that is your mentality. That is your work ethic that you instill in these guys. And if it's constant penalties and it's constant issues, specifically pre-snap, because that's not anything the defense is doing, or that's not a great player that you have to hold. That's just you running your offense, failing at it. And even I think we've had a couple offsides for defense too. And so I think it does fall to Mike Tomlin. I think that I'd have to look statistically, but in these past few years, I think we've just been horrendous with penalties, especially the start to these 2 games. So I would say that this is just a sloppy-looking team. And I tell you what, I mean, against the Broncos and against the Falcons, we can still win. But when we play, I mean, if we play a team like the Chargers and we get 9 pre-snap penalties, we're not going to win.
No, I completely agree. And even in his post-game press conference, Tomlin, he was asked straight up, he was like, was those 3 straight penalties the reason you took Broderick Jones out of the game? And he's like, you got it. Like, you know, he said, like, you know, there's no way to hide that. And I think that, I hope that it changes this week. I hope that they address it in some way. The problem is that, again, I saw a tweet just this morning, Broderick Jones is still getting flipped between left tackle and right tackle. Like, just put him in one spot. And even more so than that, put him at left tackle. Let him be that guy. They've got this platoon with just these rotating offensive linemen. That doesn't work. It just doesn't work. Especially, we talk about pre-snap penalties. Consistency is how you avoid those things. Right. If you're in a rhythm on offense and you're not coming in and off the field all the time, that's when you sit there and you wait for the hard count. You wait for the clap. Like, you're ready to go. You're not having these false starts and stuff like that because you're in a rhythm. You're on the field for an entire drive. You continue. You've been there the whole game. Like, that's how you build consistency. And when you keep subbing these guys in and out, like, that's why you're going to get all these stupid pre-snap penalties.
Right. And I think that, you know, they need to just put their best players in their best position. Like, I don't understand. I mean, I do because we drafted him. But Dan Moore Jr., like, why not just move him to right tackle? Or, like, just make the change. Because I think that he, like, is not an all-pro Pro Bowler. It's like, why has he got this left tackle spot reserved when there's a young rookie who, like, or well, he's not a rookie anymore, but, like, that's his position, and he's obviously having some problems with the right tackle. It's like, I agree. Like, consistency is key, and the fact that we don't have that is just so frustrating. I want to go back to Justin Fields. Before I do, it was a quiet game, but Najee played good. I think he had almost 70 yards.
He had 69 yards.
Okay. And so he had a great game. You know, I wanted to shout that out really quick. But going to Justin Fields, he did look great, especially in the first half. And he didn't make any mistakes or anything. However, I sent this, we have a Steelers fan group chat, and I sent this into the group chat kind of as a joke, but I mean it sincerely. If you look statistically, the first 2 games, minus maybe 2 turnovers, Kenny Pickett and Justin Fields' stat lines are extremely similar. Neither of them had a touchdown in week 1. They both had a touchdown in week 2. And so I'm looking and I'm like, man, I like everything Justin Fields is doing. But if all they're going to do is turn Justin Fields into Kenny Pickett, like, let's still see Russell Wilson. Let's see who can throw 2 touchdowns in a game.
Okay, that's, again, the formula. The almighty formula.
I hate it.
I know you hate it. But the thing is, I think that Arthur Smith he's going to continue to open things up. Again, if you look at the spray chart from this last week, they used the middle of the field. They took some deep shots on occasion. Again, they got called back because of penalties. You know, if you get Broderick Jones to, you know, quit being stupid on the right side, then that's a 50-yard bomb to George Pickens. They're like right in scoring territory.
Yeah.
They're slowly opening things up. And again, last week I don't think we gave a whole lot of rapport to the Chargers, But, I asked you, I said, do you think that when we play a real team that Mike Tomlin is going to change the formula and open things up? I didn't think that it was going to have to come this soon, but the Chargers have given me enough reason to make me think that they are a real team and that we are going to have to open some things up this week if we want a shot. And I think that they're going to have to make that decision pretty quick.
And I do too, and I think that, unfortunately, I don't think that's something that's on even Mike Tomlin's mind, because Mike Tomlin thinks, oh, this is the formula, like you were saying, execute, execute, execute. If we're losing, execute better. If we're losing even worse, all right, maybe put somebody else in, see if they can execute it better. He doesn't change because, I don't know, with stubbornness or if he genuinely thinks he's the best in the world. And so, unfortunately, I don't think he's going to change. But I will go back to, it doesn't matter who's at quarterback if you're going to use them the same way. Like, I would like to take a flashback to Kenny Pickett has a football in the Hall of Fame because he had back-to-back primetime game-winning touchdowns and, made the drive to win the game. And it's like, well, that's great, but did he do anything else in that game? No. And it's like Justin Fields, it's like, hey, if you can drive down and score one touchdown, it's like, that's great, but like, it's just not going to last, and it's not going to work. It's not going to be successful, as we saw with Kenny Pickett. I obviously don't think he's as bad as Kenny Pickett, but I'm like, can we get a guy in there that could throw? I mean, in this league now, like in the league we're in, asking for 2 passing touchdowns in a game is not like that. That should be like what you expect.
But I will say this. Touchdowns are at an all-time low right now.
They are.
League-wide.
The defense is...
League-wide.
Defense is dominating league-wide. I was just talking about that with somebody last night because we were talking about the Jets and the Patriots, and yeah, it's true. Offense is an all-time low, so, I mean, who knows? If offense stays at an all-time low, this could be our year because, this could be our year to strike, but I would love to see 2 touchdowns.
Right. And I think that is a reasonable expectation. And I think we'll get to that eventually. Now, again, talking about defenses, our 2 edge rushers had a sack apiece this last week. And I talked about it as I said it was going to happen. Again, the formula was going to work last week, whether you liked it to or not, because Bo Nix was going to pee his pants when he saw TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith running at him, and that literally happened. I don't think either of them touched Bo Nix on their respective sacks.
No.
He just went down.
Yeah.
The first sack was on the first drive of the game.
And Highsmith was being held.
Highsmith was being held, and he was given the sack. I don't even think he was anywhere around the play, though.
I think he, maybe... both of them, I think, grazed him. Barely touched him. And it's like, well, he was the closest person to Bo Nix, so that's a sack.
Yeah, and then the TJ Watt one, I mean, he might have gotten, a fingernail on his shoelace, and he just went down again.
Yeah.
So, like I said, a rookie quarterback who has no idea what it's like to have TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith running at him from both sides... The formula was going to work last week. As ugly as it was, and as complacent as it was in the second half, it worked. And the defense held their own. And, again, the secondary had a really nice game. Hey, Corey Trice.
Yeah, Corey Trice. That was great to see him get involved and make a play. And we had 2 interceptions this week, even though, the last play of the game. But still, it's an interception.
Right, and, they're sharing the love, too. Nobody has multiple interceptions yet. We got Deshaun Elliott, now DeMonte Casey, and Corey Trice. Yeah. And, they're, this is a competent secondary, it seems like.
It does, and I think that, last year there was a lot of times where you'd see plays and you'd be like, oh, that just looks bad, or why is he wide open, or all that stuff. But, honestly, in these 2 games, I haven't seen anything for our defense where I'm like, that looked bad. I'm like, well, that was contested, or we have people there, and I think that goes to the secondary, the play is just a lot better, and then our middle is just a lot tougher with, Patrick Queen. Obviously, Patrick Queen hasn't made a huge splash play, but I think just he's been doing an outstanding job, because it starts with the middle, and so I think the middle kind of feeding into that with the secondary, our secondaries look great. There hasn't been plays like last year where I'm like, oh, how did that happen?
Yeah. Yeah. It's been very encouraging. Now, I think this is a good way to segue into the Chargers week. So you talked about the defenses and stuff. The Chargers, again, take into account who they've played. But the Chargers are statistically the only defense that is better than the Steelers' defense through the first 2 weeks.
Wow.
And they have been running the ball at a historic rate.
J.K. Dobbins has been off the charts. And I'm scared of J.K. Dobbins alone, let alone what Justin Herbert can do with his arm. So, to say that I'm very concerned would be very accurate. I am very concerned and very worried about this upcoming week. Maybe it might be flashbacks of what happened in our last home opener and, seeing how we fell apart so quickly. And I feel like recently, early at home, we have not played well the past few years, like our home opener, whenever it was. And I think this Chargers team honestly might be a little underrated right now. I think they're coming in hot. Like, they are definitely, feeling like the best team in the league. We might feel pretty good too, but I think that deep down, especially our offense, knows that, like, we're still trying to figure things out. And so I'm very concerned. I think their defense, could have their way in a lot of ways with our offense. Because honestly, like, I would call our offense, like, it's like a kindergarten offense. It's like this isn't like a full NFL. This isn't like a Chiefs or a Bengals or even a Ravens offense. Like, this is like preschool. Like, I feel like that's what it is.
Yeah, it definitely, it seems very adolescent. I will say that. Now, again, you talked about it last week. They didn't go for the jugular in the second half. It looked very reminiscent of the complacency of last year.
Yeah.
The only difference was last year the complacency came when we were losing. Now this year the complacency came when we were winning. We tried to run it, and the running just didn't quite get enough yards. Like you said, Najee only had 69 yards. Jaylen Warren had a nice day with limited touches, but they didn't run the ball. They didn't possess the ball as good as they did in week one.
No, they didn't, and that's something that I think it just needs to be fixed. Like, we talk about how, like, the Steelers can never put anybody away, and, like, that's why. And I think that part of the problem is like Mike Tomlin kind of has this mindset, and the offense has had a mindset for the past few years now of, like, oh, we're up, let's play not to lose. And it's like, I hate that. If I was an offensive coordinator, if I was a coach, I'd go to my guys and I'd go to them and I'd be like, listen, let's go score. Like, there was a mic'd up clip. I think it was actually Mike Vrabel, like someone on his offense, or AJ Brown or Ryan Tannehill. Somebody comes up to him and they're winning, and he's like, "What's the objective of this drive?" And Mike Vrabel's just like, "Score." He was like, "Go and score."
Right.
And I'm like, "Yeah, that's right."
Yeah.
It's not possess the ball, run up some time, and then punt. It's like, no, every drive, go and score.
Right. Act like this is still the second quarter. It might be like late in the third quarter, but it doesn't matter because, like, I mean, look at the Saints.
Oh my!
They put away the Cowboys before, like, the second half even started.
And you have to do that. The Falcons, prime example, 28-3. You have to keep piling it on. Like, the biggest mistake offensive coordinators make and coaches make is like, all right, let's dumb the offense down. Let's play it safe. Let's just run out the clock. It's like, no. Let me show you how good I am. Let me keep scoring. If our offense is humming, I want to keep it running.
Sure. Yeah. Especially coming off that really hot first half.
Yeah.
They came out with limited points based on how they were moving the ball. I mean, they moved the ball really, really well.
They did.
Not in the very beginning of the first quarter, but once they started to get the juices flowing a little bit, they were moving the ball up and down the field. And they didn't come away with as many points as maybe I was hoping.
Right.
And then in the second half, it just stopped because they took the shutout in the first half and they said, okay, let's just end the game. Let's just end the game with our legs, and they just didn't.
Yeah.
And they honestly kind of let the Broncos back in a little bit.
Oh.
And the problem is that's not going to work this week. And I don't want to go back on my word because I said that this formula was going to work for several weeks. It is just not going to work this week. J.K. Dobbins has 266 yards on 27 carries in 2 weeks.
And does he have 2 touchdowns, or is he have more? Or?
He has 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
And the Gus bus, so the Chargers literally just took the entirety of the Ravens running back room and they just inserted into their offense.
John to June?
Yeah, literally. This is a Ravens week. This is a Ravens week. So Gus Edwards has 85 yards on 29 carries. Their leading receiver is Quentin Johnston, who was awful last year, had the dropsies, but has been better this year. He has 2 touchdowns already.
Yeah.
He has 8 receptions for 89 yards. And then Ladd McConkey, who is
He's
a
a
rookie.
rookie,
Yes,
yeah.
he is a rookie. They haven't done much in the passing game. Justin Herbert has protected the ball. He's only thrown 1 interception. He's only been sacked twice, which is another really important thing.
Is their O-line good?
Now all right, that's the question I've been waiting for.
Yeah.
I am so scared of Joe Alt this week, the offensive lineman who is undoubtedly going to be matched up against TJ Watt.
Yeah.
He is an absolute tank, and he shut down Max Crosby in week 1, and Jadeveon Clowney had the worst game of his career this last week with the Panthers.
Oh my goodness.
So, again, is TJ Watt better than Max Crosby? Yes. Is he better than Jadeveon Clowney? Absolutely. But this might be a generational offensive lineman that honestly could give TJ Watt some trouble this week.
Well, that's very interesting that you pointed out. I didn't realize that their O-line was that good. And, I mean, yeah, the more I hear about this Chargers team, the more, like, I was already concerned, and I was already thinking maybe a loss. And then the more I hear about it, the more I'm like, oh, wow, it's getting worse and worse and worse, and everything is stacking up against us. So it'll be interesting to see. We have been great against the run game these first 2 weeks.
Yes.
I mean, we've been great against everything, but specifically the run game. And, like, you know, we played Bijan Robinson, who, you know, is a top-tier talent. I don't know if the Falcons use him well enough, but, you know, I think that it'll be interesting to see how we match up against their run game. This could be a big game for Patrick Queen to kind of, like, shut the run game down on Landon Roberts. And so it'll be interesting to see. I would love to make them throw it. Like,
yeah.
You know, like, which is weird to say because they have Justin Herbert, but it's like if you can get them to do what they don't, like, what their first option isn't or what they don't necessarily want to do. Like, obviously, as we've seen these first 2 weeks, they want to run the ball. They want to control the ball and then, you know, let Justin Herbert finish it out. And it's like, if we can stop that and be like, hey, no, beat us with the pass. Like, I think that is going to be the key to victory defensively, is if we make them beat us with the pass.
I think so, too. And the only thing that not the only thing that I'm concerned about. I'm concerned about a lot of things. But the way that our two teams are fashioned, we might see a complete flip in identity on both sides. If the Chargers run the ball effectively like they have for the first 2 weeks, then that's going to create, or I'm going to say, it is going to force us to throw the ball.
Oh, yeah.
Because if they're running it up the gut and they're getting 5 yards a run like they pretty much have for the first 2 weeks, and they possess the ball like we did in week 1 against the Falcons, like, it's going to force Justin Fields to have to throw the ball.
Oh, without a doubt.
Like, we are going to have to throw the ball effectively if we want a shot. Now, their defense only has 2 interceptions. They've gone to the quarterback at least a little bit. They have 5 sacks in the first 2 weeks, and, you know, if you want to talk about the offensive line for the Carolina Panthers, that's a completely other story.
Right,
so,
yeah.
You know, our offensive line is maybe it's fine, but it's not as awful as the Panthers, for sure. So, and then, like you said, if our defense does stop the run, then it's going to force Justin Herbert to throw. Again, Quentin Johnston has had a good couple of first weeks, but at the same time, Joey Porter Jr. has locked up the wide receiver ones in the first 2 weeks to the tune of, I think, 3 catches and like 30 yards.
And those wide receiver ones are Drake London and Cortland Sutton, who in their own rights have the talent and the skills to be great.
And they have a little bit more of a pedigree than Quentin Johnston.
Yeah.
Is Quentin, like, okay, I'll full disclosure, I picked Quentin Johnston up in fantasy this week, firstly because my Dynasty League team sucks, and you probably know that because you beat me last week.
I did.
You did, by a long shot, too.
Yeah.
And I'm going to start Quentin Johnston this week in one of my flex spots because
I think it's a good start.
Right, because, I mean, he has shown nothing but the ability to produce the first 2 weeks. Now, when he's matched up against JPJ, maybe it's a different story. But the way that I approach the Pittsburgh Steelers is I am very weary until I'm proven wrong.
Oh, absolutely.
Especially in fantasy. Like, I don't care, that I don't care that we have Joey Porter Jr., who's locked up the wide receiver ones in the first 2 weeks. I see what has happened on the other side of the ball, and I'm like, okay, until you prove me wrong, Steelers, I'm gonna go with what has been working, and Quentin Johnston has been working for the first 2 weeks.
He has, and I think that you're absolutely right. I think it'll be really interesting to see that matchup because I honestly don't know who comes out of that victorious. I know Joey Porter, they're both hot. They're both hot right now, both, feeling good. So it'll be really interesting to see. I honestly, I'm leaning towards the Chargers. Like, I think that they've just got so much, like, that, these first two offenses, it's like they really, the Atlanta offense just kind of fell flat, and then the Broncos offense doesn't really have much to give. And it couldn't be more the opposite this week, where it's like this offense has everything you could want. So
and their defense has been good too.
And their defense has been solid. Though, I mean, week 2 wasn't really like a test.
Again, the competition for them.
The Raiders, who knows if the Raiders are
right?
good.
I don't know about the Raiders. I think the Raiders might be better than people are giving them credit for.
Yeah.
I think Antonio Pierce just had a bad week 1. He made some really bad decisions, and I think that cost them the game against the Chargers.
Yeah.
So, but I think he bounced back really well, I think, against the Ravens. And, I think the Raiders might be a half-decent team this year. But again, like, the Chargers haven't played anybody necessarily proven to be good, but at the same time, we haven't either.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
it's again, this just circular reasoning in a way, and it makes for a really interesting matchup between two 2-0 teams.
It does. It's going to be a great matchup. I'm so excited to watch. I'm nervous to watch because it's like it could easily get out of hand, and it could be one of those games where we're watching and we're just like, end, please. But it could also be like a down to the wire, which is what I'm predicting. I'm going to predict a loss, and we're going to lose 17-16.
Okay. Really tight.
I think our defense is going to, do what they've done the first 2 weeks, but with just how this offense, I think our offense is still going to struggle again. And, like how we saw at the end of the last game where Denver was able to drive down because our offense was struggling.
Yeah.
I think the similar things will happen, and because this offense is just more potent, it'll result in a touchdown more than a field goal.
Right. Yeah, that seems very, very likely. And I think historically, too, we play really tight with the Chargers.
Yeah, we have. I mean, I remember the last time we played them, we were in L.A., and we were getting crushed, but then we came all the way back, tied it
That
up.
was a primetime game, right?
That
was
was
Monday night?
It was Sunday night.
Sunday night, yeah.
I remember that. It was because that was when Justin Herbert had like the 50-yard run and Cam Hayward ran him down.
Yes, yeah.
That was awesome. But, I mean, we still... we lost by like a touchdown. There was multiple games that year where we just came all the way back just to lose.
Yeah.
But I think we do tend to play them tight, and we don't play them up. Well, actually, now
we're playing them more often now.
Yeah, it's interesting to think about. There was that game, and then the time before that, we were up like 23-3, and then they came back and won. So it'll be interesting to see how this one turns out.
Yeah, this is an intriguing one, and I think before the season. Again, I don't remember what you and I said. I think I predicted a win. I don't know if you predicted a win or not, though.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I predicted a loss, honestly.
But neither of us would have seen them being 2-0.
No, I think that I thought that they would have some struggles out of the gate. But, I mean, I think that, like, honestly, this Chargers team, even though over the past couple of years, is such a talented team, and I think that the coaching has wrecked it. And so now that you have a great coach in there, like, I wouldn't be surprised if this... Especially, the Chiefs haven't looked that good. Like
they've scuffled.
Their division's open, and if the Chargers can run the ball and throw at Justin Herbert, they could be a force for the entire AFC.
And honestly, I hope so. I am so sick of the Chiefs.
Oh, me too.
The Chiefs are the new Patriots. They are.
They are, and I love Jim Harbaugh is a solid Christian. And, he is a Harbaugh, but, he's a Michigan coach, but...
yeah, so, like...
two negatives, but I do like him, and I think that I would love to see... I mean, hey, the Chargers don't have any rings, so it's like no harm, no foul if they win.
I was thinking about that recently, too, about how, like... it was in the shower last night. I was thinking, are the Browns ever going to win a Super Bowl? And
Oh
I was
my
thinking,
goodness.
like, if they ever did win a Super Bowl, like, I think the world would just end immediately.
Yeah, I think everybody would just be like, okay, but what now? Like,
Yeah,
I don't understand.
what are we supposed to? What is society supposed to do now that the Browns have won a Super Bowl? And I mean, I was thinking too about how many teams have not won a Super Bowl. Think about the Vikings. Like,
Yeah,
you know,
who
the
have been to
Vikings.
4, I think.
Yeah, they've been to a lot and haven't done anything.
Yeah.
Same thing with like the Bills. Like,
The Bills have 4 straight.
4 straight and lost all 4. Like the parity in the NFL is not as much as a lot of the other major sports leagues.
Right.
And like, I mean, like the Texans, like they're an expansion team, but they like, you know, the statistically speaking, like surely one of these teams that hasn't won a Super Bowl is going to win one eventually.
Right. Well, I mean, you even thought like last year, you were like, oh, the Lions.
Yeah.
Like they had a 24-7 lead and they just squandered it, and the Texans got to the divisional round. I think like these teams are starting to push, and I do hope. Like I love like seeing the Eagles in 2017. It's crazy to think like when I think of the Eagles now.
Oh yeah.
It's crazy to think of like they didn't have a ring until 2017.
Right.
Because like how I view them now is like, oh, they're always like just fighting. They're right there. So.
And I hate the Eagles now.
Yeah.
Well, I was rooting for the Eagles then.
I was in 2017 and against the Chiefs. I was kind of torn. I loved both.
I didn't like
time.
either. That was a lose-lose situation.
I honestly at the time it was win-win. Now I'm like it was a lose-win if the Eagles had won. But I would love it if like the Lions, which who knows about them? The Lions, Texans, Chargers. I'm trying to think of any other. There's definitely more undefeated or teams that haven't won Super Bowls.
Oh, the Vikings, yeah.
The Vikings look good too.
Yeah, Sam Darnold, come on.
I'm rooting for all 4 of those guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely never the Browns, but
no, absolutely.
Yeah, and the Bengals. They never need to win.
No,
Yeah.
absolutely not.
And that's the Bengals have been to 2 and lost, or 3. They've lost 3 Super Bowls.
Yeah.
So it's there's been a lot of teams that like are so close and they're just that away from getting that one ring, but they just can't do it.
Usually usurped by a team that has
dynasty,
a pedigree,
yeah.
and you know they just can't get over the hump. So
yeah, and that just goes to show you, like, and it'll be interesting to see with our team. Like, experience is key. Like that's like when you look at those teams where it's like when the dynasty team always beats the team trying to get the one ring. It's like, what's the difference? They're both great teams. It's experience. Like the dynasty team, they've been there, they've won it, they know what to do. Versus a team that's like, oh my gosh, the 2-minute warning in the Super Bowl. Like, what happens now?
Right?
You know?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. It is interesting. I mean, I think we're slowly starting to enter a new age of the NFL in terms of like these bottom feeder teams are now starting to try to rise through the rankings.
Yeah.
But still, there's teams like the Chiefs that exist.
Right.
And no matter how slow they started slow last year. People started to write them off, and they won the Super Bowl for the 2nd straight year.
They did.
And they are, and again, I'm the same way with Georgia football. Until somebody beats Georgia, they are the national champions in my mind.
Yeah. Hey.
The same thing. Until somebody beats the Chiefs, they are the Super Bowl champions in my mind.
Yeah. But speaking of Georgia, Kentucky almost beat them. So,
but they didn't. They did not.
They didn't. But yeah, that'll be interesting to see with the Chiefs. I would love it if they just had a down year, because you know the dynasties get tired unless it's your team, and I mean, but I genuinely do think like, and hopefully I hope it stays like this. The league stays like this for the rest of the year and for years to come, where it's like, man, it truly is. Besides like the Panthers, it truly is. Anyone can win this game,
right?
Like, anyone. Like, it's like, who's going to win this game? Like, even when we were talking about the Chargers and Steelers, it's like, I don't know. Like, looking at their past thing, it's like, both teams is like,
You have a legitimate reason for both of them.
Exactly, yeah. And I hope that continues and that we just see a lot of 5-5 and, like 6-7, 7-6 teams. Like, it would just be really cool to see something like that.
Absolutely. And so, again, I didn't get to make my prediction. We kind of got off on a tangent there, but my prediction was 24-20 Steelers lose.
Steelers lose.
So
okay.
we got a couple of losses here this week.
Yeah.
Let's see. I'm 1-1 in my predictions. I think
I am. I predicted a win week 1. And then
you changed your answer last week.
I was going to say loss, but I changed the win because of you.
That's kind of cheating. You said loss
I gave
first.
2 answers, so I'll say I'm 1-1.
Okay, all right.
Well, yeah. So hey, we'll either both be 2-1 or 1-2.
That's
so we'll
right.
See.
All right. So there won't be any parity between the two of us this week, but hey, maybe next week. But as far as things go, this week is all that matters. You know, we talked about it. You know, you can't look too far down the road. Again, the Chiefs Christmas Day. You can't look forward to the Chiefs yet. You got to figure out what to do against the Chargers this week. And I think the Steelers have a compelling reason to win. But again, my skepticism, until they prove me wrong, I'm not going to get too excited. Right. I'm going to watch the game with excitement, but I'm not going to convince myself that this is going to be an easy win.
Right, and I completely agree. And in my mind, they still have to prove it, specifically like Arthur Smith and Justin Fields. Prove to me that you can score points. Like that's until you can prove that, I'm still going to be like, but are you really good? You know what I mean?
Yeah. And if they do that this week, then I think that adds to their pedigree. That puts a feather in their cap, and I think that means, hey, we can do this.
Right.
I think that would be very beneficial for Arthur Smith and for Justin Fields' confidence, because I think he has a lot of confidence right now. And if you just continue to build it and you start to let the playbook open up a little bit more, you start to let him make those throws in the middle of the field, down the field, George Pickens is not going to get every single thing taken away from him this season.
Right.
As much as it has happened in the first 2 weeks, he's going to have a 135-yard game at some point this season.
Right.
So it's just a matter of when that happens. And if it starts to open up, then that day might be sooner than later.
Yeah, and I completely agree, and it'll bring an interesting and fun question of like, okay, if Justin Fields does like ball out and have say 3 touchdowns or something, it's like, what happens with Russell Wilson? You know? So
correct.
That'll be an interesting conversation in the future that I'm nervous for Mike Tomlin's answer. And also, really quick, Mike Tomlin, when you're talking to the press, please just be nice. You give all these short answers and you act like it's a bother to be there, and it's like, just be nice to the guys, like they're doing their job, you know?
Yeah.
I just like it's you hear other coaches and they have fun with it, and it's like you like that. But Mike Tomlin acts like he's like, I don't know, like, a middle schooler getting home from school and your mom's like, how's your day? And it's like, fine. And it's like, and it's like, yeah, talk with some, I don't know.
I don't know. I relate to that very, very heartily. I didn't give my mom and my dad a whole lot. If they listen to this, hey, that's just my personality. That's kind of who it is. So I kind of get it, but in the same way, I understand,
Right.
So
you can be nice and talk to them without telling them everything about your team. You know what I mean?
I guess that's true. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll give you that. Well, we do want to wrap this episode up with one very special announcement. We are now sponsored.
Yes.
We have a sponsor for this podcast.
Very exciting.
The Boardman Black and Gold podcast is now powered by Zecca Enterprises. Zecca Enterprises is coming home to an office in Western Pennsylvania. Zecca is a dealer representative of KI Furniture, a premier American-made manufacturer with a comprehensive line of quality school and office furniture. After building over a decade of success with KI in the Carolinas and knowing of the family's Western Pennsylvania roots, KI asked Zecca to help craft furniture solutions for schools and businesses in the area of Western Pennsylvania. An agreement was made and the team is now on the road booking appointments. Zecca Enterprises is a family-owned business, and it's now in its second generation of family employees. It's also a veteran-owned business, proud of its military heritage and its experience in GSA and federal sales. Zecca Enterprises is a co-star partner and currently seeking opportunities with schools and state and local government offices. You can call 919-406-4679 or visit ZeccaEnterprises.com to learn more. Zecca Enterprises, crafting furniture solutions and proud supporter of the Boardman Black and Gold podcast. That is something that is super fun to be able to read, and we want to thank Zecca Enterprises for powering this podcast. It does cost us to put this over the airways, but it's something that we love to do and something that we want to do. And now with this partnership, we can do it pretty much freely, and we can do it and be able to give you guys an opportunity, our listeners, especially in Western Pennsylvania. I know we're in the Boardman side. We're the Boardman Black and Gold podcast. But if there's some of you that are associated with the federal government that have furniture needs in any regard, you can call that phone number. You can go to ZeccaEnterprises.com, and we can set you up with quotes and stuff for anything that you need furniture-wise. And again, it just helps us out. It gives us the ability to be able to do this.
Yeah, it does. And just a huge thank you to Zecca Enterprises. And it's a surreal moment to be like someone else actually told me, because I didn't listen to like the most previous episode, and you had mentioned it, I think, and someone else texted me and was like, "You're sponsored," and I was like, "What?" And I texted Zane, and I was like, "We're sponsored?"
Yes.
And it's just a crazy moment to think like, "Holy smokes!" Because you think of like sponsorship, and you think like, "Oh, those are like all the big guys who are doing it for a living and stuff," and so it's like to hear that we've got a sponsor, it's like it's such a surreal moment. It's so awesome.
It is, and we're very thankful for Zeka Enterprises for powering this podcast, and again, it just gives us the opportunity to continue to make more of these. And this is our second season of doing this, and who knows how long that we'll continue to do this. I mean, hey, maybe we'll be here when the Lions win the next Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll be here when the Browns win the Super Bowl. Hopefully not, but that's
hopefully never.
Hopefully never, but maybe in 2075 you'll be getting the 50th anniversary of the Boardman Black and Gold podcast. So, but the only way that that's possible is for organizations like Zeka Enterprises to be able to power us. So we want to thank them for helping us out, and it'll be a great partnership, and we're looking forward to a long time with this. So with that, we will end this week of the Boardman Black and Gold podcast. We're looking for a Here We Go Steelers win against the Chargers in week 2. It's our home opener. We got to take a win in the home opener.
We got to bring the energy. We got to be hyping, and hopefully we can come away with a win, even though we unfortunately both predicted a loss. But of course, we're still rooting for a win and hoping for one.
And one of our good buddies, Joseph, who has been a longtime listener of our podcast, he is going to the home opener. Yes.
Let's go. Joe, bring home the dub for us, please.
Yes. Joe, you need to bring home a winner. That is your only objective in Pittsburgh this weekend. So we hope for Here We Go Steelers win, and we will see you next week on the Boardman Black Gold podcast. Have a great day. Let's go Steelers!